experience the full power of the dark side. Good!
We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
What the? Misa back!
Prepare to fire!
Oh no!
Hello and welcome back to Star Wars Beyond the Stars for episode number 27, recorded on Wednesday, April 1st, 2015. April Fool's Day. I'm your host, Fred, aka Sith Lord Korv. And joining me tonight is Agent Louis Olan.
Hello, Fred. Hello, everyone on Twitch, YouTube, Fox. What is going on? And as always, greetings from Imperial Intelligence.
Had to rewire a lot of stuff so those Twitch people could be here tonight.
Better you than ID10T. But who am I to complain?
I took parts out of him.
Oh, good. That's a good thing. Okay, come on, let's go. Good.
What's that thing in Shriek's mouth?
Goopa Noopa.
Looks like a server arm.
Don't look behind that cut. You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and SwTourNetwork.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. And you can tweet us at StarWarsBeyond. Our usual record time is Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/NoSHTGaming. And what's coming up in the Captain's Log tonight, Lou?
Well, this week, what we have coming up, obviously we're going to go over our last week in the game. We're also going to be bringing up the topic of double XP weekends. Should they be random or planned? We'll weigh in on that discussion later on. And for the intelligence report, I will be presenting, as always, the continuation of Force Powers. This is going to be part 6. Plus the weekly winner of the Agent Star Wars Trivia Question of the Week, and your feedback in our community holo feed. And as always, we do have something quick to mention. And I don't know if you've been to the site lately, folks, but they did release, I believe, a little April Fool's gag on their site, on their news articles. It's called Go Big, Go Small, Go Nowhere. And it's got everyone's favorite smuggler, Kai Zykin, headlining it. So go to the website, take a look. They've got someone, a person's avatar on top of looks like a full-size Jawa sandcrawler in the game on Tatooine. And believe me, I really wish that wasn't an April Fool's joke, because I really would like a Jawa sandcrawler as a vehicle mount. That would be cool.
The scale of that one, though, was ridiculous.
It is, but actually, yeah, I mean, that's how tall the crawlers are supposed to be. Because if you read the actual print version of Star Wars A New Hope, all right, Olan Lars, he sometimes has some bad deals with the Jawas. However, he knows better than to tick them off, because he and the other moisture farmers that deal with them know that in a heartbeat, if the Jawas really were that incensed, they could squash any of the moisture farmers' homesteads with their sandcrawlers. That's how big they are. I mean, the way they look in the game, yeah, it's because it's the game. But when you look at the overall story of how big those things are supposed to be, yeah, now you know why.
Yeah, they took those things from Zerka, right?
Yes. All the sandcrawlers that you see in A New Hope and in all the games are actually those ones they salvaged and scavenged from Zerka Corporation. Because if you play the KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 games, you know Zerka's been on Tatooine for a while. They've been there, trying to run a mining business out of there, trying to get the ore, and then realizing it's crap. And so eventually what happens is that after a while, even though we still see them in Star Wars: The Old Republic, pretty much, Zerka has abandoned all its facilities, all its bases, all its equipment there. And over time, the Jawas will start scavenging it, retooling it, and making it work again. And then jump 3,000 or 4,000 years in the future, and what do you see in New Hope? There you go.
I think it's part of the Republic planetary quest where you actually meet somebody that's retired from Zerka. It's part of the planetary story.
Yes, one of the side quests. I think when you deal with, one of the main bad guys, he actually is going after you. Actually, whether you're Imperial or Republic, you have to go find an old retired Zerka employee, go to his homestead and rescue him because he has information that you need.
I just remember going, that guy's crazy, and when you go dark side, you just completely backhand him, and it's hilarious. And then you punch him in the face, I think.
Wow. That should be standard emote throughout the game.
Hit old person.
No, just backhand. See, I don't understand why the Sith purebloods only get that. That should be an entirely credible emote. Just backhand somebody in the game.
Best part about the Sith pureblood one is that the companion you do it to just hunches forward and starts crying.
See? Oh, gosh. It's little things like that, folks.
Since it's a racial ability, I think you should be able to use that in a group environment too, and you just randomly hit the closest group member and they start crying.
That would be hysterical.
Yes, it would, but then everybody would spam that button on cooldown. Imagine an entire group of Sith purebloods and they're all crying all the time.
Or just one Sith pureblood and his entire ops team is just crying because he's just backhanding them during downtime when they're resting between the fights. Like, what are you doing?
Teach you to wipe.
It's like playing Dungeon Keeper in SWTOR.
What I love is when you're a Republic class that shouldn't be able to be a pureblood, like a Jedi, and you're just smacking the crap out of Kira.
Oh.
Teach you to have a scar on your face.
Gosh.
Speaking of the Republic and Kira, which probably has nothing to do with your week, what'd you do over the last week in the game, Lou?
Well, I did a bunch of things, although real life did not interfere, but come up several days last week. One of the things happening is that I did miss out on most of XP weekend that we just had.
No.
Yeah. I had family come over. I was like, oh, hey, what's going on? So, of course, being a good host, I couldn't just leave them there.
I would have.
However,
Be a good host.
with what little opportunities I did have, I did focus on just my low-level alts, especially the ones in the Shadowlands. Most notably my power tech that I just made a couple weeks ago, my DPS power tech. This is Faye, and then my medicine operative that I recreated on Shadowlands. He's just going to be a complete clone, my operative on Jedi Covenant.
Nice.
And she's just going to be a complete clone. I just, if I could just literally take character copy and just take it from my main on Jedi Covenant and just put her on Shadowlands too. There you go. Because that's exactly what she's going to be.
It'd be amazing if that broke one time and people were actually doing that. Able to copy your main character. Like, you do a paid character transfer, but they just leave you on the Origin server too.
Oh my god. Can you imagine?
I had that happen to me one time in EverQuest. I paid for a character transfer and it left a copy of my character on the Origin server and copied me to the new one.
I don't know what BioWare would do if that ever happened. It'd probably take them a while to fix it though.
They'd probably, I don't know, they would probably let whoever got away with that get away with it and then change it so nobody else could take advantage of it anymore.
Possibilities though.
They'd just steal the people's cartel coins until they got that value back out of them for a second copy.
Yeah, I was going to say that what they might do then is probably just allow it to happen, but they would probably tap into that player's cartel coin reservoir and just take the equivalent out of it anyway. Or
Well-
the next time they go for a billing cycle, if they're a sub, or if they pay through whatever means, like the game cards and such, they probably tell them, "Oh no, you owe us another $6 to $8, $10."
Well, see, if you paid for a transfer, like if you were going from Jedi Covenant to Shadowlands, and you paid them to do that, and they put your operative over on Shadowlands, you technically got what you paid for. So if your operative's still on Jedi Covenant, you shouldn't owe them for that because that's where you were originally anyway.
That's true, and in that case, I would probably say that that's not my fault. I did not do anything malicious intentionally. That is a complete mistake on your part.
Well, that's why, if they ever mess up and do something like that, you immediately purchase a character rename so you don't have two operatives with the same name running around there.
But they look exactly the same. They have the same exact gear layout. Even the companions. Even the same cargo hold storage. I have no idea what to tell you, sir.
Oh, no. That's the first trip is the rename, and the second trip is to the appearance designer. It looks different. It is different. Change up your companion customizations. It's not even the same character. What are you talking about? Respec?
Exactly. Oh, boy. That would be nice, though. And obviously, since yesterday kicked off the latest and greatest event, which is the Raccoon event.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I started doing that on especially my max level characters. I'm taking all of them through that just to help build up, again, reputation because as of now, I am on champion status with them. With that. I'm sorry, no, hero. Halfway, almost done, almost there to champion status. Almost there. So with all the event, with all the reputation stuff going on, I always try and squeeze out as much as I can, to build these up because I do like chasing those titles down, those reputations down, in any game I play, not just Tor. Because the OCD kicks in, I have to get the achievement I have to finish all these reputations. Must do it. And as always, what I always bring up every time they bring this event in is, could we please look at these areas? Because it would be so nice to have variety for once. All right, the event
don't like running through that same dank cave on every planet?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the event is held, now what? This is the 4th planet it's been on? Okay? And all these 4 planets don't look alike. All right, granted, they'll probably get away with saying, well, technically you're underground, so, okay. But at least try to make it a unique landscape so that we all know, hey, this is what Alderaan's Raccoon Invasion looks like. I think that would be really nice to have. Because, again, if I bring in other games I played, every zone was different. So you knew you were in this zone. I mean, even the landscape, the flora, the fauna, even the background music was different. So you knew exactly where you were. If there were 40 zones in the game, guess what? 40 zones looked differently. Each had its own set of background music. And yeah, you had some spillover with creatures, but for the most part, you knew exactly where you are just by looking at it or hearing it. Like, hey, if I go back to EverQuest 1, all right, I'm in Trakenon's teeth. Why? Because I see this layout of the jungle. I see these ruins. I hear this background noise. This is exactly where I am.
Oh,
and I really think, granted, one of the uses they have for the Aero Engine is just that they can just pretty much copy, paste, and dump these things into the game, make it go live with very little issues. But again,
I was going to say, I would have really loved it if they would have given unique environments to each one. And when you're on Corellia and the event's there, if they would have made it be down in the actual sewers of Corellia, and you go to this one little corner and there's one of those Salonians just sitting there with the headband on with 4 little Gamorreans sitting there with different colored headbands and teaching them karate.
Well, exactly. You brought up a good point. When they're on Corellia, wow. Corellia, and it's held in Coronet City. It's like Coronet City's been around for thousands of years. Who knows how deep and how widespread their infrastructure is down there. And it's like I would think the Raccoons would just bury in and use existing infrastructure network, kind of like what you see in Aliens. All right, when you see the second movie for Alien, okay, and when you see Aliens, what do? Yeah, they just took the existing superstructure of the power plant. Yeah, they kind of fixed it up with their own cook and stuff, but you knew you were in the power plant. And that's something I'd like for them to do one of these days. Like, look, we know it's for ease of coding, just easy to maintain, but come on.
Well, when they do the Rackle event, it works opposite to how Rackles behave on Terrace. Like, in the Rackle event, they're all crowded down in these little tunnels underneath the planet, when in my mind, I mean, I know this would be disruptive to leveling, but in my mind, when a planet gets the Rackle invasion, there should be Rackles everywhere. Not just little infected people groups that spawn randomly when you walk by certain locations, but there should just be Rackles everywhere.
I mean, that would be great, but I don't think the engine could support it without lagging down the entire area and people just complaining about it. Because, yeah, I would think the same thing. You don't have, like, an isolated pocket of an infection, to which, let's be honest, that's exactly what Rackle Invasion is. It's just an isolated pocket far away from everything else, because what happens? You have to hop on a speeder, go find the needle and then use that to get the... No, come on.
And
where are all these bodies coming from, then?
The Rackles only spawn around the towns, too. Like, if you're out questing on that planet and you're in the middle of nowhere, you won't even see a Rackle.
Right. Because there's no one there to infect. So, of course, there's no one there to be around. Oh, but, of course, they could say, a lair or hive or whatever. But, same thing, the Rackles are out to what? To infect others and, to eat other people. So, why would they be in the middle of nowhere where there's no food source and nothing going on? But again, that's just one thing I'd like to see change one of these days for the event. To make it better. I mean, I have fun with it, but this is something I think that can make it better, so it's not the same old, same. It's like, all right, same exact zone. Like, I can imagine if this is on a space station, we're gonna see rock tunnels on a space station. That for me, that's worst case scenario. It's like, can you imagine if they host this kind of event on Viking space dock or in Carrick station? Like, what will we see? We'd see rock tunnels in a metal-built space station.
Oh my. That's true, and it'd be all dank and moldy like it is now.
Yeah, or they could even make it even more variety. An Imperial Star Destroyer gets infected. Okay, or a Republic crew, a Republic battle wagon. The big whale we all see. They're Republic's answer to the Imperial Star Destroyer. That thing gets infected. The entire crew gets infected. Okay, I don't expect to see rock tunnels, plateaus, stalactites, and stalagmites on a metal ship.
Well, true, but if the plague was isolated to a ship, you just blow that ship out of the sky. You don't get on there and try to purge those people.
Well, unless, again, if you ride into where one of the missions where you actually have to find stuff and retrieve it from the Rackles. All right, there's items on board, people on board you have to save and retrieve for your faction, which I think would work.
Or do it like a quest, like from Forged Alliances, where you got this NPC working with you, and they're like, "Oh, quick, get to the ship, we gotta escape." And then you get into space, and you find out that one of the crew was bit by one of them while you were down there.
Right, and that would work. And I think it'd be fun. That would be fun. You're actually fighting the Rackles on a Star Destroyer or on a public warship.
That'd be great.
Again, or on one of the space docks, either Carrick, a variation of Carrick, or Viking, I think would be fun. A lot of fun. Those things are multi-level. I mean, yeah, we only see, what do we see? We just see the main hub, where the cantina is, all right? The GTN area, the combat area, no, those things are huge monstrosities of space stations with multiple levels. So, we could have a lot of leeway there.
That's going to be like, yeah, this was your first glimpse of the stalagmite tunnels underneath the space dock.
Yeah. we never told you that, there were rock tunnels and, plains and deserts and Carrick Station. Yeah, we never told you that, did we? But again, that's just me being, putting in a wish list. Add more variety so after a while, the event doesn't get stale. Because you always know, you're always going to look, all right, if I'm on this planet, it doesn't matter what faction. If I'm in the Alliance, the Republic faction, I know these are my 2 ways out, 2 ways in.
Well, I would like to see them change it a little bit so that when they have this Rackle plague on a planet, the planet actually feels more dangerous. Because as it is right now, if I'm leveling up a character and I know that Alderaan has the Rakul invasion, and my character is supposed to be on Alderaan. All that means to me is, for the first 5 minutes that I'm on that planet and I'm around the spaceport, I'm going to be inconvenienced by getting attacked by mobs of infected people. And I'm just going to have to kill them and keep on moving. If I'm on Alderaan, I would like to see that, because, the Rakuls are in these tunnels underneath the planet, I'd like to see anywhere that I'm on that planet, even if it has an extremely low % chance of happening, I want there to be a random chance that a Rakul can just jump out of the ground like the sand people do on Tatooine.
Right, and because of that, because we know that works, because it's on Tatooine, right? Yeah, you're right. The same people occasionally will jump you out of nowhere when you're traveling on your speeder. So we know it's there. The mechanic's there. I think they can incorporate that into the actual event and have the entire planet be a danger. And yeah, you know what? That would add variety again, another layer of danger to the leveling process. I think maybe players would like say, hey, it's extra element of danger. Hey, more XP.
Not only that, like, if I'm doing the planetary quests, when I get to the point where I got to go infiltrate House Rist, I want to walk in there and see the Rist guardsmen fighting a whole bunch of Rakuls that are pouring into their base.
Right. Or when you go to, Castle Organa, you have a huge, castle, the whole area. It's like, yeah, I would like to see the guards there, the droid forces fighting off Rakuls while you're trying to do your own mission. There. Well, if you're Imperial, yeah, you're there to attack the Organians, but, whatever. And just another extra element to the questing that's there, that's already present, which I think would be a lot of fun.
And just like how that Thorn Spike comes and goes with the event, when the event's over, I want an NPC standing there going, how do they do that?
Right. Look, it's like the spike was never here before. Look, it's went back to the way it was originally. That's amazing. That's awesome terraforming there, Thorn. Outstanding. Yeah, because, like I said, just remember, I would like for once to say when I enter, those zones, if they set it up that way, if they're not going to make it like an open world type environment, if they're ever thinking about that for the future, it's great. But for once to go down to these tunnels and get a unique say, yes, this is an Alderaan planet. We're on Alderaan. Okay, now we're on Hutta. Ooh, the stink. So right off the bat, you get that visceral experience that this is the Rakul event on this planet. It's unique. But one day.
Yeah, so from my perspective, the Rakul one was the one that I really hit hard the first time it came around. The second time, I literally only had to do one quest to be completely maxed out with my reputation with Thorn. So at this point, there's no reason for me to even do these quests anymore.
Well, I'd say it's a free way to get more money. If you don't want to do the dailies. It's just another way to get more money.
I don't know. The dailies, I could incorporate the Rakul event on maybe 1 or 2 characters, but the dailies, to me, are a lot more lucrative because I know the pattern to follow to get done with those extremely quickly. Mm-hmm. Whereas when the Rakul event's going on, I got to compete with other people for mobs and everything.
Yeah, that's true. But, at least it's there, though. Like, when it is there, when all these events are there, it is, to me, I take it as an extra break away from doing other dailies. Like, I'll skip doing CZ-198 or I'll skip doing Bel Savis Section X because I'll do the Rakul event. Or the Bounty Contract event. I'll do stuff like that instead. Just get away from doing the same old thing. It helps. Also, now that we've heard and we have a pretty good idea of what the outfit designer is, I'll say I am somewhat pleased with how it's going to work once it's out. Okay, it's great that they're actually bringing it into the game. Finally, I will say. However, as some mentioned in the forums, I think as a further quality of life improvement down the road, when they have time, I also think it'd be great if they actually were able to add a weapon slot too for that, because I think for a lot of different folks, well, even for me, when I have characters, whether in Tor or in other MMOs that do have this feature, okay, the costume feature, a lot of them also allow for weapons to be placed in those slots, especially EverQuest 2. Okay, I'll bring that up as a prime example. There you actually have the ability, to do an entire costume setup, but you can also show different types of weapons on your avatar to be displayed. So, for example, my ranger on EverQuest 2, yeah, she has, her class epic, okay, and another legendary item as her offhand. But what you actually see when you see her, when you're seeing her from the outside perspective, you're actually seeing two really cool weapons. I like their appearance. One happens to be a level 30 weapon, main hand, and the other one's a pretty cool looking level 20 dagger. Okay, that drips venom, has a sick green aura to it, and the blade drips green venom onto the ground. And that's great because I think that would really complete, especially for a role player's perspective, the outfit that they actually want designed. Because you don't, for force users, you're pretty much stuck with your saber, okay? Unless you want to use the actual melee weapons as your skin, that's cool too. So at least you have that option. But for the non-force user, it's great to say, hey, you know what? I like this weapon. This is the best weapon for my class at this level. Especially if you're a blaster rifle user, a lot of blaster rifles just look like garbage. Okay, they look like oversized baseball bats or oversized PVC hoses with a grip on it. So it's like, you know what? I go out of my way to find these orange rifles just so I can get away from that look. Yeah. Okay, you waste money here and there, mods and stuff, but at least now you can actually, you know what, this is a weapon I had at level 5, looked great. I think this cool, and I'll slap that as my appearance for my weapon.
I do think it's funny, though, that, it's a good thing that you're in favor of this, because when I heard what the appearance designer is going to be, I don't think that it's a good thing for this game. When it comes out, I'll use it because of what it is, but I think that them adding basically appearance slots completely defeats the purpose of orange gear in this game. And that was one of the unique aspects about SWTOR, was the fact you could actually upgrade your items and keep them relevant and not have to have an appearance slot because you're using the actual items. And I'm very much surprised that they would introduce a system that is very counterintuitive to one of the very few unique features about this game.
Well, I'm trying to remember back before the game went live. I know one of the questions that had been asked for a couple years before on the beta forums, and we, the player base had been asking for, what are we having? Are we going to have the ability to have, a costume/appearance tab, like we see in other games, or the ability to transmog like World of Warcraft has? Are we going to see that function in the game? All right, and I know one of the answers they gave right off the bat was like, no, we're not going to have that system. But I know eventually they kicked in, and that's why we received the orange gear. It was because of that. Because that was their answer, saying, well, we're not giving you an appearance tab. However, we will give you the option to have orange-type gear, which will allow you to swap out mods and replace them, upgrade them as need be. That way you can have your unique look and yet still keep and progress with the new mods that are available to you as you level up.
And it seemed like a great system, and this is the only game that did things that way. And it seems like this new appearance system is going to kill, I think, the only unique feature of this game. Like, I think that's the only thing that this game does on a major scale that no other MMO does. And I'm surprised that they're adding a system that pretty much makes that irrelevant. Because now you could literally wear an entire gear set of whatever you want and just have any armor that you want inside of your appearance slots.
Yeah, yes, I see that point. I don't know what the market's going to be like now for crafters who can craft orange gear and put it on the market. But for me, I find it ironic that the system that was asked for in the first place and then answered with the orange gear, but now they're actually bringing the system into the game. Yeah, which you're right. It probably will negate. I don't know how large the extent will be, because now you can actually just fit whatever armor you want and still hide your appearance. We'll see how the market goes from there. But then again, we also don't know. I haven't read anywhere how that will affect people different status, whether you're a subscriber, preferred, or free to play. What are the limitations for those who are free to play or preferred? Are they going to suffer the same restrictions that we see in the game now? the inability to hide your helmet, the inability to unify colors, you pay outright for that ability.
I would be willing to bet that free-to-play people are going to have to buy into the appearance system. They won't even get that first slot for free. They'll have to buy it with cartel coins. It'll be the only option for them to use it. And if they buy it, I think they'll be able to use it. If they don't, then they can't. And I think they'll still have to pay to be able to hide their head even in the appearance slot.
Yeah. Which, yeah, gosh.
I mean, like, if this was any other game, I'd be completely in favor of an appearance system coming. But in SWTOR, it just seems redundant and not needed. Because I feel like we already have that option. And the problem isn't typically that, okay, all these gear sets that we want to wear, we just can't find them in orange. Like, I know most of the gear sets that I want to wear, the problem is they're not making it options for me to wear it at all. They need to add the new looks to the game, and I don't see what benefit appearance slots are going to have, really, other than the fact that, okay, if you want to pay an outrageous amount of money, you can have 16 different cosmetic looks at one time. I know myself personally, I'm pretty much going to have one look the way I want my character to look, and that's going to be how I look all the time, just like it is now. So, I mean, I guess it's good if you like changing your outfit all the time and you just want to pay one time and have 16 different choices, but on a grand scale, it doesn't feel that much different than what we already have available, because it's not like most of the art looks in the game you can't already get as an orange.
Yeah, in one form or another, you can always get an orange equivalent to it, something close to it somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it'll just open up like a couple different shades of something that you couldn't already get as an orange.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty much the same look, just different colors is already available.
Right.
The only cool thing that this will make available is you'll actually be able to wear that white gear that your character starts with if you didn't destroy it or sell it.
Right, exactly. Which is why now on all my low level characters, the pieces of armor that they receive or they receive as drops randomly that I do like, I actually kept them. I'm actually storing them away, saying, hey, you know what? I like how this looks, and I'll keep that as a future look. And the way the designer works, obviously you have to pay per slot. Okay, so yeah, you get the first couple of tabs for free or what have you if you're a sub or not, or prefer. Again, I haven't read up yet on exactly how the status is going to work.
They give you one for free being a subscriber.
So, paying for it, fine, and then paying for each slot that you got to put in there.
And originally it was $800K to unlock all the slots on one character, and they've since increased that. So you're probably talking millions of credits to unlock all 16 slots on one character.
Yeah, I think I was reading something on Dolphy's site saying it currently, and remember this is subject to change as well, and this was maybe 3 or 4 days ago, that I think the latest estimate is only an estimate. It was roughly a little over 2 million credits to unlock all 16 slots. All the slots on all 16 tabs. Appearance tabs.
I did see, though, a screenshot where they have the option with cartel coins where you can unlock the slots on an account level, too.
Right, and that would be nice to have.
Yeah, I mean,
nice.
If you really want to have a whole bunch of different looks, you could use your allotment every month and just keep unlocking more tabs until you eventually have all 16 unlocked on everybody.
Right. Because, at least for me, again, I like that the design is coming out there, because I do swap through, looks on my characters as the game has progressed. I mean, gosh, a little over 3 years. My operative, none of my characters looked the same when they first started. Obviously as they got better gear, what have you, but the moment orange gear was introduced, I was swapping out looks, as it suited my taste. If I got tired looking at my operative the way she looked at it after 4.5 months, I swapped out her gear. Just for variety's sake, same with my Marauder, my Sentinel, my Sorcerer, my Trooper. again, because you want to keep, variety in your game. And when you got new armor sets in the game, hey, new looks, it was always cool to have. And especially for the role-playing crowd, I think this is a great hit for them because now they can literally just switch, just by switching a tab. Okay, now they have something to where if they want to hang out with their guildies or their friends, if they're in a cantina environment, boom, they've got their cantina / clubbing outfits. Okay, all right. Or if they're venturing on places like Hoth or Ilum, where it's bleeping cold. Okay, now you have a reason to get all that Arctic gear.
I was gonna say now somebody's gonna buy that Arctic set.
Yeah, exactly. That's on Hoth. Now there's a reason for it. You actually not waste credit, but you actually spend your credits and you actually get it and actually wear it there. Or in Ilum.
Now I want a body type 4 dude running around in Arctic gear. It looks even bigger.
Yeah, or if you're on, planet like Tatooine, like, hey, you know what? If you're lucky enough to have the Sand People outfit, heck, you can wear that. You're in Tatooine. That'd be amazing. And as Pele brought up in the chat, now if they would just add a gear manager, yes, that would be great. If they only let us have macro support in the game, that would be awesome.
Now, if they weren't willing to add dual spec, I really don't think that they're going to be adding a gear manager. Because somebody even asked about them adding this appearance designer for companions, and they're like, it might not seem like it, but adding it for companions would be the same as adding a whole new system to the game. So the short answer is no.
At this point in time, it's beyond their technical means. Because think about it, if you're going to have to deal with just the regular player base alone, okay, and on top of that, adding all the companions, all the different variations of all the companions that are out there, oof, that's a lot of information to process. I mean, I'm sure it could be done somehow, but I'm not sure that if Tor is up to the challenge as of now. So, but it's something to look forward to, though. If they can do it, I hope they will. Because again, especially my level 60s where I have done the Yavin 4 dailies to the point where most of my companions, and all my level 60s, all of them, all my companions are outfitted. They've got the 192 gear from there. Problem is, like I said before in other past episodes, they all look the same now. Okay, there's no variation.
Yeah.
Okay, Quinn's outfit looks the same. Like, this guy's outfit looks like this guy's outfit looks like this guy's outfit. If you're a Force user, like Jaisa, okay, you're gonna look just like every other Force using companion. All right, the skirt outfit, the top with the feathers or bone spikes coming out of the shoulder. Yeah, you're gonna look just like that.
Well, not to sound like a certain crowd of people on the forums that is just hating. This feature, I'm sure I'll use it when it comes out. But I'm going to be one of those people now and say there are other more important things I would have liked to see them spend resources on. Like, how about a new Warzone map?
Right. Well, now this is out there. We know it's coming out. We know it's there. Okay, we know we're going to get it. So at this point, at least I'm assuming that they're ready now just to pretty much let it go once they finished, I guess, with some last-minute adjustments, do whatever feedback they have on the PTS. And then I would hope that they will now switch to other areas in the game, like you just said, PvP. Okay, I don't PvP a lot in this game. But I know that, the PvP crowd is also integral to the community, all right? There's room enough for both communities, they need to get along, okay? I'm never one for, one versus the other crowd, because to me, that's just antithetical. It doesn't make sense. Don't hate on the other because you need the other half in order for the game to survive.
Yeah, it's all one community.
Right. In the end, we're all playing the same game. You're just playing one aspect of it. Okay, so please, stop with the hate on the other community. Just work with each other. And I think, PvP has suffered a lot in this game because you're right. I see other streamers I follow on Twitch and on Twitter, and they brought it to everyone's attention. Like, look, when are we getting new stuff? Okay, if anything, the PvP crowd they need new maps. They need new zones to kill each other in. or different types of maps. I mean, last episode, what did we talk about? A couple of different ideas we just tossed around for like 10 minutes, like how they can improve by just adding new maps into the game that they already have in the game. Like what I talked about last time, Sobrik.
If PvP was my main gameplay in this game, I would be fine when I saw them adding new content for PvEers. I wouldn't be one of those people going, all content should be for PvP. No, I understand there's different areas to the game. But if I was a hardcore PvPer, that was all I did in this game, I would be a little bit pissed when they add something like the outfit designer when there's already an orange gear system in the game. It's like they're just doing something redundant instead of spending resources on other areas of the game that have been completely neglected for over a year. That would just be my point of view if I was on that side of the fence. Even on this side of the fence, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a slap in the face to people that are still waiting on content after this long.
Right. And again, we don't know how they're structured, but they probably have different teams out there working on different projects, unless they're sharing projects. I'm not sure. Again, nobody's privy to that information out there.
Well, I mean, even so, it's been over a year at this point since PvP has had a real update.
Right. And that's why they need something.
Yeah, there should be something that they can shift around there to make more of a priority where they're not waiting an entire year for content.
Right, because then what's happening later on this month? The PvE side of the house, what are we getting? We're getting Ziost, supposedly. Okay? Technically, yes, we're getting Ziost. Soon, TM. Okay? And, just going over the forums really quickly before the show started, other than seeing the, little things here and there on the forums, okay, the foos joke that's going around, again, the other side of the house needs taken care of. All right, the PvP crowd needs new stuff to do. And again, as I pointed out, the last episode we talked about, at least for me, easy fixes. Easy maps that you just dump into the game and just adapt to the PvP crowd. Right, and I'm always going to bring back Sobra because it's a battle zone already. You're fighting each other in there already. You're fighting the Empire there. You're fighting the Republic there as it is.
You just really want a Sobrik war zone.
Yeah, I mean, again, to me, that's a no-brainer. It's already set up in the game. Just take those assets, dump it into its own portion of the server, where they host all the other PvP maps, and there you go. You're fighting each other for Sobrik, or you're fighting for the Balmoral Droid Factory. That's perfect. And yeah, you've got traps built in. I mean, come on. Those little spaces between the conveyor belts, the one the page fell through originally. You could have that as a hazard. All right, if you want to get to that objective, okay, you got to survive crossing those conveyor belts and not dying to either enemy fire or dying because you slipped or you mistimed your jump.
Now that you say that, I just want to see a completely chaotic war zone where the entire level is just a metal floor with holes all through it over a lava pit, and you gotta run and avoid the holes while fighting people.
Well, just to bring that up, that's actually, if they wanted to, what do we have? We have Rishi in the game. And what happens when, spoiler, if you haven't fought already, when you fight Shea Vizsla, what does she have in her main chamber? Okay, she's got the lava pit going that she has covered up. All right, the metal floor appears there when she wants it to. You could have it, something like that to where, I guess, make it a time match to where if you killed X amount of players, this happens to that side of the faction. That faction, their half the floor goes away, they lose. Okay, or just expanding my Balmoral Droid Factory. All right, you fight for control. You're fighting for control of the actual droid automation room, like the actual control room of the droid factory. Okay, and the faction that wins control of the droid factory, they have to hold it for a certain amount of time, and then when the time's up, if they've held successfully, all the droids that are on automated lines come to life, and now they're fighting for you, and the other team loses. Once you activate the droids, that team loses, and they've lost the match because 4 players, 8 players, and then whatever amount of battle droids that are in the factory at the moment are now attuned to your faction, to your side. They've lost. They've lost the match.
one of these weeks we're going to have to actually set our discussion topic to be what kind of war zones we want to see added to the game. Because the possibilities are endless, and I think Paige would have some interesting ideas for that too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so... For the IP that is Star Wars, there are so many ideas floating out there already. I mean, you literally don't need the creative team to actually think of something. No, the assets already exist throughout the entire universe. The lore is already there. Just build it. You don't have to come up with something new. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You already have zones, planets, areas within the game, within the history of the game itself, the history of Star Wars itself, that you can say, this is a war zone now. Okay, we're fighting for this now, or we're fighting over this now. I mean, heck, let's go back to the beginning. All right, before Tor starts, what happened for the timeline of Tor? All right, the war that happens. All right, the last trailer, CGI trailer. What do we get? Return. Okay, and that kicks off the war when the Sith return to space, to regular Republic space. There are so many things they can do with that. All those battles. Hell, the second trailer with Hope. You're fighting for Alderaan if you're the Republic, or if you're the Empire, you're fighting to take Alderaan. Again, these are just ideas I'm tossing out because the assets are already present in the game, or there are ideas in the game. All they need to do is just build it. They don't need to create it or come up with it. It's already there. Just use it. Just program it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from our fans too. If you guys have any interesting ideas for war zones, why don't you go ahead and jot them down and email them to us at StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we will happily talk about them on the show.
Yeah, exactly. War zones, different variations. Hey, I'm sure over the past couple of years there have been a lot of variations of Hutt Ball that have been floating out there. Hey, you know what? We can add this to the game, to the Hutt Ball match. This, and this. Make it, spice it up a bit. But, again, I'm sorry, I digress there. But going back to the appearance designer, or costume designer, outfit designer, I think too, maybe I was wondering too, maybe for that'd be more like the gear manager question that Play brought up, which I don't think we'll receive from BioWare anytime soon. So,
well, I'm hoping that when 3.2 goes live and we actually get the outfit designer, we'll actually have a focused discussion about that once we have some hands-on time with it.
Exactly. Once we actually get to play with it and see how it works, see how it looks, see the intricacies of it.
Because I know this is something Paige will have thoughts on.
Mm-hmm. But, even with that, as it is now, like I said before, like my low-level alts are keeping certain pieces of gear that I like, using them for future use when that does go live. And even now, even on my max level characters, I'm actually going back to my cargo holds, looking for the older gear that I have. And even I'm scouting GTN for new looks that I might want to have on my characters one of these days. So,
I'm going to put that new Vanguard that I made in the gear that troopers start with at level 1. that blue uniform when they're first recruited.
Yeah, that generic pair of black boots. Pants and shirt.
Yeah, because
little backpack.
I think that's the only Republic uniform shirt that you can get that actually doesn't have that gun on it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And remember, I got that one Imperial uniform shirt that I put on Temple on my operative because it was blue. Now he'll actually be able to wear it.
Yeah, it's true.
So there's a few unique gear pieces out there that you can't get as an orange.
True, and you know what? I'm glad you brought that up with the trooper, because I know now I can actually whip out the Alliance officer's uniform that I have in my trooper. That pilot's uniform they have, the Alliance officer's uniform that they have, with the brown pants, the blue shirt with the brown trimming and stuff. You see a lot of Republic officer NPCs wear.
Yeah.
Something like that. Now I could actually use that in my trooper, just for roleplay modes. Like, you know what? I'm not on my armor all the time. Just like before, like, hey, as a real life soldier, I'm not wearing my battle armor. I'm not wearing my battle rattle 24/7, unless I'm in the combat zone. When I'm not in the combat zone, I'm not wearing my Kevlar. I'm not wearing my IBA. I'm not wearing, my elbow pads, my knee protection. I'm not wearing all that stuff all the time.
that's the only benefit that this appearance designer is going to have right off the bat is it's going to make it so that gear that you otherwise would have never looked at because you just always took the commendations, you're going to look at it to see what it looks like and keep it. Just like I remember a couple weeks ago when I was talking about my Inquisitor and doing all those heroics on Tatooine, and then to my horror, some of those pieces were just blues. Now I'm going to be able to get those and actually finish my outfit.
See, and there you go.
So, I mean, that is a silver lining that we just found now for me. Thank God I'm not a PvPer, or I'd still be mad.
Well, at least you and Paige, do it. Do engage in PvP.
Yeah,
They have a chance.
That's been waning lately in SWTOR because it's the same. She's much more into the PvP in the game lately than I am. I'll be over here playing Smite, and I'll look over there, and she's just doing Warzone. And then she's like, I lost them all. Ooh, tough break.
Well, it's, I guess she enjoyed the more visceral feeling of killing players and that in SWTOR than in Smite. But to top it off, I'm going to be picking up my pugs again later on this week. I took a break, obviously, because I realized that came up last week, but I'm looking forward to either Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday just to run some quick 8-man or even 16-man story modes again to get more experience and, of course, to build up the comms for my characters, especially my max level ones.
Okay, well, what I did for this week is basically the preface to our discussion topic for tonight, which will be a fairly short one, I think. But basically, I spent most of the last weekend working on my Sage on the Shadowlands because, as you'll recall, I already have a max level Sage over there that is a healer, so I am just trying to rush this one to level cap just so I have a DPS Sage. And he's going up balance. And I spent most of the weekend grinding KDY because I have the Flashpoint experience boost maxed out on him, and I've been using the XP boosters. I think I managed to grind out like 8 levels on him.
Nice.
And I gotta say, it really sucks that they nerfed heals for non-healer sages and sorcerers because they took away the big heal if you're not spec heals and gave you that crappy little heal over time that doesn't do much if you're not a spec healer.
Oh, God, yeah.
There were numerous times that somebody in my group got aggro, and I put my heal over time, spamming my fast heal, and I just couldn't keep them up. And that never used to be a problem pre 3.0. But I'm adjusting. I'm learning how to play DPS on him. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I just feel like I can't get to 60 fast enough on him.
Really? Even with all those boosters going?
It's still slow because it at this point it feels like it takes 1.5 KDYs to get a single level, even with the double XP rolling and the booster. It doesn't go like it used to. And I think inevitably I'm going to have to take him out of there and start doing some quests, but I'm dreading that because now all of his gear is way under-leveled for him. It's the old catch-22.
Time to start spending some money.
Not to mention he has no crew skills.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. But that brings us to our discussion topic, which is, do we think that it is cool that they just dropped a double XP weekend on us, or do we think that BioWare should be giving us some more notice, Lou?
Well, first of all, I'm glad they did. I mean, I always appreciate double XP weekends, even though those last one I missed out on.
Yeah, but see, if you would have known it was coming, you could have locked the door before your family got there.
Yeah, well. Yeah, that would have gone over well. Probably not. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't mind, because I wouldn't mind if they planned them on a regular basis, but I'm also not going to complain when they just do them randomly because, we all have a lot of vaults. Okay, look, I have 760 so far. Okay, I'm working on number 8 and 9 at the moment. They're getting there. All right, so I definitely don't mind if they do them randomly. I just appreciate the fact that they actually consider doing them at all. Okay, even though I think it's becoming more of an industry standard because Tor is not the only game that does that. Other games that I play do offer double triple XP weekends or events that happen for several days during the week. Okay, so, games like World of Tanks, they do that where every now and then, the weekend's going to be a time starting Friday at a certain time. I forgot, I think maybe 1 p.m. or 11 a.m. something like 12 noon Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, on a Friday starts triple XP weekend, meaning wherever battles you do, okay, your first battle gets triple XP if you win for your crew.
The first game I ever saw do a double XP weekend was EverQuest 2.
That's the first one that I ever saw, and I'm like, double XP? I'm like, damn, because I'm an old school EverQuest player, and you never saw anything like that back in the day.
Oh no, you never saw stuff like that.
What?
Even though it would have been welcome.
Double XP all weekend? Guess who's not coming to work this weekend?
That's right. But you know what? I think with this, BioWare could really do the player base a lot of good by saying, hey, you know what? We're going to have a set amount of specified XP weekends, double XP weekends. They'll pull up the calendar and say, okay, so for May through December 2015, these are going to be when we're going to have double XP weekends. Okay, maybe 1 week in a month, or maybe, we'll have one in May. We won't see the next one until July. All right, we won't see the next one until September, and so on, just so that there's no, so they're not seeing it back to back to back if they don't want to spread it out too much. You know what I mean? And dilute the purpose of it,
To be fair, we see double XP weekends more than we see the Gree event.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. All right, but that's a whole other thing where that's also another question. Like, should we bring back these events more often? Some of them, yes. And actually, you know what? Come up with some more events as well.
I could stand to see Bounty Contract Week go away for a few months.
At this point, I could say maybe Bounty Contract Week every 2 months. 6 times a year would be nice. Raccoon event, same thing. Every couple of months.
Bounty Contract Week could have been amazing if they had different contracts and they rotated from month to month instead of, kind of what they're trying to do with the Raccoon event, where it's on 3 different planets. When they first made Bounty Contract Week, if they would have broke it into like 3 different sets of planets and contracts, and each month it changes which ones are offered, it would feel different.
Right, you're right. Yeah, because you have access to all of them. Yeah, I mean, I see. Like, yeah, you know what? There's a list of what I'm just can't remember the top of my head. These are 24 henchmen or 24 lieutenants you have to take down. You know what? This month you only get 8 of them. You want to get the other 16? Well, you gotta wait and see when they come up next.
Yeah,
they could literally do. Oh wait, we're repeating the same 8. Next month it's a different set of 8.
No, I wouldn't want to see that. But if they literally rotated, there's 8 this month, the next 8 will be up next month, the next 8. So there's 3 months, 2 months in between before you're going to have those 8 contracts offered to you again.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're going to different planets, you're going to different parts of those planets, and it feels like a different event even though you're picking it up from the same people.
Right.
And I'm not a fan of how you have to do the little underling missions to save up the contracts so that you could pay to unlock the kingpins.
Well, I mean, that's one way to extend it, to the longevity of the event itself.
Yeah, but
I can sort of understand that.
Makes it feel a little bit too grindy, though, because it's like, well, those last 5 contracts I just did count for nothing because I just used it to unlock another contract. That's kind of how I felt when I started unlocking kingpins, because there's cool things on the vendor that you want to use. Like, if you're going to do that, give a different currency for unlocking kingpin contracts.
Right, I was about to suggest that. You know what? Or maybe earn a different set of currency for unlocking kingpin contracts, or like with the other stuff in the faction system, you have to reach a certain faction level before you can get those kingpin contracts offered to you.
I would have liked either a different currency for doing it, or every time you do one of those little henchman missions, give you a little lockbox that has a random chance. Like, there's one kingpin contract in there, but it might be one you already have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then make those tradable.
Yeah, just a system that doesn't make me choose between buying something cool for my character or buying another quest.
Right.
That's my only real beef with Bounty Contract Week is it about kills me when I have to spend my contracts to unlock Kingpin bounties.
Just get another contract. Yeah, it kind of doesn't make sense. But, going back to the double XP weekends, yeah, I would like for them to have a set amount, a set time frame for these double XP weekends. But, also allow for the random, hey, we'll toss in this. Okay, and it doesn't have to be, again, the time frames that we're giving, these are just suggestions we are throwing out there. I mean, it doesn't have to be every 2-3 months. No, you know what? If they want to do double XP weekend and keep it to where it's unique and to actually make the player base look for it, okay, and really appreciate it, maybe offer it twice a year, 3 times a year. That's it. Once a quarter. There you go. You have 4 times a year. And you know exactly when it's coming up. It's like, all right, in January 2016, one of those weekends is going to be a double XP weekend. Okay? Next one's not coming around till, May.
It would be nice if they gave us even 3 that were pre-planned throughout the year, and then just every once in a while surprise us with the bonus one.
Right. 1 or 2. That's it. Again, we're suggesting, 3 planned ones, 3 or 4 planned ones, and then just throw an initial 1 or 2 out there. Just say, hey, you know what? This is just for you guys. You know how much you like them? Hey, there you go. Next year, another double XP weekend starting Friday. At 12 noon.
Well, I appreciated how they announced it this time because basically some players had made a thread like, when do you think the next double XP weekend's going to happen? And like people were debating, they're like, oh, not before Memorial Day, or probably the 4th of July. May the 4th be with you. And then Musk was like, oh, double XP, we're going to have one starting tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Anything but 11th hour is cool. Okay? A week's notice, 2 weeks' notice, that would be great. That would be optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I was at work, and then I started seeing on Twitter, double XP starting tomorrow, and I'm like, well, wish I would have known that was coming. Might have taken some time off to play some SWTOR.
Yeah, like I said, 1 or 2 weeks out is great. Anything more than that, because you know what's going to happen? You're going to see these threads inevitably on the forums and on Twitter or on Reddit. I didn't know it was coming up. Really? It's been posted on the forums, on the website for over 2 months. Really? You didn't know? Yeah, because no doubt you will see that kind of complaint and whine, pure straight up whine on the forums and in chat. I didn't know what was going on. Do you visit the forums? do you follow Tor on Twitter or on Facebook or anywhere else? Okay then. Wavelength is right over there. Go hop in it.
Anecdotally, I actually mentioned at one point when I was at work that I was taking time off so that I could play SWTOR to one of my coworkers, and they're like, you take time off to play games? And I'm like, you're not a gamer, you wouldn't understand. It's so funny how they look at us like we're creatures in the zoo.
Yeah, because, I think the gaming culture is becoming more and more mainstream or more acceptable, okay? But in the end, it's still going to have its, I guess, a stigma attached to it.
One day we're going to control the White House, Lou.
Like we don't already? Oh, somewhere along the line. There's somewhere with a controller or a mouse keyboard input going, this is what's going to happen.
This is really weird to think about, but if you actually think about this, there's going to come a day and age when there isn't a single old person out there that doesn't know how to use a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, our generation will be there. Where, we make stereotypes now about the old people like, I don't know how to check my email. That's not going to be a reality anymore in probably 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, that's true because, as is, my nephews and nieces now, all they've known is cellular phone technology. All they've known is desktop, laptop, yes, Mac, technology. They've grown up in a world where that exists all the time.
Yeah, which means, by extension, that in a certain number of years, which I don't know how many, most of the people that are sitting in the United States Congress and even the president are probably going to have been gamers at some point in their life.
Right, and and that's going to be a welcome thing because I think that's a valid form. It is a valid form of entertainment. I don't care what anybody says. It's entertainment.
We'll start getting legislation about microtransactions and how they try to scam gamers because they're going to end up pissing off some congressman.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But that's probably in the future.
And that'll be the end of Perfect World Entertainment.
Yeah. Can only hope. Can only hope. But just to extend it, I would like not only these types of events to be more planned, like the double XP, but again, going back to our wish list of the other types of events that are out there, like the Gree event. Okay, but I'm also of the mindset to where they need to devote time and resources to coming up with new events, straight up just new events. Like we know we have the Gree event, we know we have Radical Invasion. Okay, we know we have Bounty Contract Week. All right, the Shevin thing. All right, as far as we know, that's never coming back. Okay? As far as we know, quote unquote. So for argument's sake, let's just assume that it's never coming back. All right, but they've just shown us, they devoted time and resources to the outfit designer. That's great. Now I think, again, in the wall of crazy, need to shift time and resources to not only come up with new stuff for the PvP crowd, but new events, just like Double XP Weekend. Okay, different varieties of that, so, different things of that nature. To where hey, you know what? It'd be great if they said, hey, you know what? To beef up more interest in the original space portion of the game. Hey, you know what? If you play the space missions, yeah, we're gonna give you 4, 5, 6 times XP, and that's also a viable way to level up as a low-level character is by doing the regular space, not GSF, just hopping into your starship and doing the regular missions that are available to you.
But Lou, they won't develop for that because nobody plays that.
Well, that's because, not talking GSF, but the regular space missions that are there, those are fine. Again, they can tweak those and add some more stuff into it because it's been 3 years already. But if we want to go that route to where you plan these special events, like, hey, you know what? If you play GSF, you get triple, double, quadruple XP. Not only for GSF, but for your character.
Do you know how funny that would be if just randomly they went into those on-rail space missions and moved around where a bunch of stationary objects and the NPCs are? So the people that play them every day and don't really, they can pretty much do it with their eyes closed. They go in there and everything's coming at them from new angles and stuff. What happened? They'd be going on the forums. On-rail space is broken.
No, we switched it up. But, yeah, again, add variety to that and add special things to it, like the double XP, triple XP, what have you, just so that you get players interested in it, so the players will use it. I think it's pretty lame. That's a lame excuse for them to say, well, no one's actually playing. Well, no one's playing it because it's boring. Or no one's playing it because you haven't updated it for over 2 years plus. And everyone knows it's stale. It's like stale bread. What do you do with it? You make it the croutons or you throw it out? Okay?
I think it would be a good idea if they took the 12 times XP idea and they made that apply to PvP. Since PvP gives such low XP to begin with, I think if you multiplied it by 12, it would actually be enough to make a dent.
Yeah, and that's what really I don't understand, because, correct me if I'm wrong, before the game went live, we were told that if you want to level up just by doing PvP, yeah, you can. If you want to just PvE, yeah, you can. That's cool. Both are viable. You can both level up, and it's on par.
Well, sure you can. It's just, I don't remember them ever saying it's on par, but I know that you can level up to level cap just doing PvP once you get to level 10, but it's going to be a very, very slow process.
See, and that's what I don't understand, because there are other MMOs out there that have the same exact process, to where if you don't want to level up PvE, and just by doing PvP content, you can, and you're 1-for-1 with your PvE counterparts, which is great.
Well, I'll tell you what that was about. That was because when SWTOR first came out, they didn't have a viable way to kick people out of war zones that were just there to leech XP. So they made the XP suck so people wouldn't just AFK in war zones and let their team carry them to get free XP.
Right. And, well, as opposed to having a safeguard system in place already to stop that from happening. Because, I don't know, that's happened before. You're not the first MMO to have AFKers in a PvP zone.
Well, they have safeguards now and the XP still sucks. Maybe they should look at boosting that.
Yeah, I think, at this point, they should look back and readjust it now. Okay, it's like, hey, you have the systems in place now to safeguard that. Now it's time to actually make it on par to where it actually is viable with the PvE crowd.
I mean, to give you an idea, I have a Twi'lek Sith warrior that is level 27. Since level 10, he's done nothing but PvP.
And if I have a really good war zone where we win it and everything goes well, I have to do that about 8 or 9 times to level up. And, each war zone's about 20 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, do the math. We're talking a couple hours to get a level in the high 20s. And that's if the queues keep popping.
Right. And again, that's prevalent on the crowd actually queuing up for PvP.
Yeah, so it's not very good XP. And I think if the XP was better, more people would do low-level PvP.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't make it grossly better than PvE, but make it comparable.
Right. Yeah, no one's asking for one to be better than the other, but, for my argument, it's got to be parity. You have to be comparable. You've offered it as a viable source to do one or the other to max in this game. All right, now make it, like cards say, make it so. Okay, and again, I think they can incorporate that too. Again, double XP, triple XP weekends for PvP events. All right, GSF or just for the war zones. Hey, I mean they've done it before in the past.
Yeah, they did that. Well, the PvP one I think was stupid. It was something like double XP and double Warzone comms. But
yes.
The Warzone comm, they didn't double the cap at all. So people were just hitting the cap and couldn't do anything with all those comms.
Right.
And double Warzone XP is still crap. You need to at least multiply that by... In order for it to be significant, I think you need to multiply it by 4, at least. Because it's just not worth it. You could go out there and you could get double Warzone XP in half the time in PvE. So it's just not worth it. Mm-hmm. Especially for people that ordinarily wouldn't PvP. They're not going to deal with that added frustration when
right.
They could just do their own thing.
Exactly. I mostly PvE in this game, and hearing people with horror stories in the fleet or on, in different zones on different planets I'm questing on, saying, "Oh my God, I've been queuing up for the past 35 minutes." Like, you know what? In 35 minutes, I gain a quarter of a level just by knocking out 6 quests.
Yeah.
But to actually sit there and wait for the 30 plus minutes and hope you get a queue pop, and then do another 20 minutes of the zone itself and go, wow, and you get pennies for it. That would frustrate me.
And I found on the PvE side of things, I found if you try to queue up for a dungeon, a flashpoint, and it's not a tactical, you just queue up for a regular flashpoint, more often than not, it will put you in a flashpoint where everything in the freaking flashpoint is either green or gray to you. So you're not getting any XP for killing anything in there. And the only XP you get is at the very end, and you could have been getting more XP just by questing where you were. Mm-hmm. That really needs to be fixed. You should not be getting queued into flashpoints that are green to you. Everything should be yellow or above when you come in there.
Right. It should be at your level or above whenever you queue up for that. And I think it's, again, not a program, but there's got to be a way to check for that in the system. Like, no, hey, you know what? If you're level 45, okay, you're obviously going to have access to only these. That'll give you a decent chunk of XP.
Better yet, since now they're adding in this outfit designer, just make every flashpoint tactical. Then if you're level 60 and you get a level 20 blue or orange gun out of a low-level flashpoint, you can still use it for the appearance or whatever. Maybe not weapons, but, armor. The stuff would be usable, is my point. Especially since basic comms are standard now. Just make every boss drop basics. There you go.
Right. And I think, too, to incorporate that, again, with double XP events or triple XP, the special events, let's put it that way. Again, drop that into the flashpoint, saying, hey, you know what? Regular flashpoints are going to give double XP, double comms, all right, for the weekend. And I think they would see a big jump in people participating in the flashpoints. Okay, whether it's story mode, hard mode, what have you. But hey, you know what? From Friday through Sunday night until Monday morning, hey, knock yourselves out. It's going to be 3 times, 2 times, 4 times, whatever, for the regular flashpoints.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
And I think that'd be a great way to introduce, the player base that's been shying away from doing flashpoints to actually get in there, and that gives them incentive to actually queue up and do a regular flashpoint that they normally wouldn't do. Because we've all met players who have gone through the entire game or through their entire game career so far, and they've never done a flashpoint other than there's Black Talon and the Acellus. That's it.
Well, I guarantee you there's some flashpoint. None come to mind right now, but I guarantee you there's at least one somewhere in the leveling game that I've never done. Because it just fell in the middle of the levels, and I just never got into a group for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. Like I know in all my max level characters, I know I have missed through the leveling process at least 2 or 3 flashpoints that I have not done at all, just because it fell in that gray area to where I get XP faster just by continuing my class story, and the planet quests.
Maybe we'll make that a project, Lou, to run through all the low-level flashpoints together at least once.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice, especially I think we're doing that now in the leveling group. So
yeah, but we'll actually have to work on them more,
right? And as Pelé mentioned in the chat a couple minutes ago, quad XP and double valor would be nice. And getting rid of the little cap for PvP comms would be nice.
Just saying, but like that leveling group, for as old as those characters are, we probably could have leveled them to the cap through PvP.
True, or through GSF and his regular space missions, yeah. They'd be expert pilots by now. But going back to the central point of discussion, more special events. I would definitely love to see more planned route. We know these events are definitely set in stone. Obviously, some changes to be expected, because this is BioWare talking about after all. But hey, also toss in the random event. Like, hey, you know what? We're throwing you an extra WXP weekend in a month. Or we're throwing you another bounty contract or an extra chance at the Gree event, this month or this weekend. Or another Raccoon invasion. Or heck, we have new stuff coming out. We're finally going to unleash some new stuff, new events for you to take part in. I think it would be great, though. Oh my gosh. It just came to my mind. A brand new event they can introduce in the game. Introduce Ziost.
So basically they would just have the big thorn spike be at Ziost when we arrive there.
No, not
Ziost has a cave underneath it that happens to be filled with a bunch of Ziost people and Rackles.
Yeah, the Imperials and Republic task force that's taken over by the Emperor, attacking the Rackles.
Well, that is a good thought, and I would be very interested if they did something like that.
We do need to plow ahead a little bit here, though, because we do have a lot to get to still. So first up is the Star Wars recommendation of the week, where this week we found something very expensive and stupid. It is the it is on stupid.com, and it is the Star Wars Luke Skywalker designer watch. What do you think of this watch, Lou?
No comment. It looks cool, but the orange band, I don't like the orange band. I understand why it's there. It's because that's the color that the Alliance pilots wear for their flight suits when they hop on their fighters. So, but still.
Do you see how the little compass kind of looks like the Navi computer a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the computer screens in the cockpits. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And I bet you their Aubash letters actually make real words. Ooh.
Shots fired.
Just, that outfit's only been out for like 30 plus years, yet all the gobbledygook we see in the game means nothing. Ooh.
So this is, of course, from our friends at stupid.com, and the description says, "These designer watches are simply stunning and a must-have for the grown-up Star Wars fan. Each watch features a genuine leather strap, stainless steel construction, Japanese movement, and tiny details that fill our fanboy/girl hearts with joy. One such detail that proves these watches were designed by people as in love with Star Wars as us, the 5 on the face of the Luke Skywalker watch is red. This watch is hefty and extremely well crafted, so they'll be sure to last as long as your love of Star Wars. That is a nice red 5. And I wouldn't have noticed that if the description didn't point that out. I didn't look that closely at the numbers. That is cool, though.
All right, Lou, so then that takes us into the featurette
of the episode. The intelligence report.
All right, and this week. Yes, it's a continuation from last week. As I said, this one is a long topic, folks. So, Force Powers Part 6. And today we pick it up with Crusatorn. Crucial Torn was a Jedi technique for transcending physical pain beyond normal thresholds or decreasing them. Crucial Torn had two possible ways of affecting a target. Through means of mental infiltration, a Jedi could focus on another's sensation or interpretation of pain, enhancing it to seem as if any injury was more painful than it really was, or alleviate the amount of pain produced. Another possible way that Crucial Torn can increase the pain of a target was to literally focus on the wounds themselves, agitating them through the Force and causing more pain to course through the body, making it much more powerful than how it would feel being left alone. The only notable user of this technique was Eth Koth, a Zabrak Jedi Master. Jedi Knight Jason Solo was taught a similar technique by Vergere during the Zhang Vong War. And if you read those particular novels in EU, yeah, he does use it. To great effect. The next power is called Dark Transfer. Dark Transfer was an extremely rare Force power that allowed the users to bring others back to life from the brink of death. It could initially only be accessed through the dark side. The only person confirmed to have ever learned this skill on their own was Cade Skywalker, who used it to resurrect Wolf Sazan and Marasiah Fel, and to prevent the Coral Sea deaths of Delia Blue and Jariah Sin. And just for context, folks, Cade Skywalker is in the EU. Alright, he's supposed to be Luke's great-great-great-grandson, okay, who didn't want to be a Jedi in the first place. He was a smuggler. But yes, he does use this power in the books there. Okay, Cade also learns to use this Force power to kill, as shown when he used it on Darth Talon after she attacked him for being impudent to Darth Krayt. At Darth Krayt's request, he later healed the damage he caused to Talon. And with this, in a previous engagement, Cade had fought with Darth Talon, I believe. Okay, and he had wounded her severely and almost killed her with his lightsaber. Okay, and then during this fight, what he actually did was that when Cade uses this particular Force power, it's like he can see every weakness in his target's body. So he'll see lines or areas that he knows that are vulnerable and weak. And what he literally did was he saw all the old wounds on her body being projected. It's something he could see and manifest. And he literally just ripped those wounds open again with the Force. So imagine how powerful that ability could be. Okay, and later, Cade discovered, thanks to the advice of his former master, Wolf Sazan, that he could also use this Force power within the light side of the Force instead of only the dark side, as he originally assumed. Okay, he was able to use this power of the light side to revive, as I mentioned before, both Delia Blue and his mother, Morgan Cord, based on his love for them. Okay, so he used, he tapped into his emotional strength, his feeling for them, and he actually used it to manifest and focus his Force energy and actually help regenerate their bodies. All right, remember, they weren't dead. Okay, all the people that were using, they are not dead. No one can bring anyone back to life. Okay, no matter what Palpatine says. All right, they were on the brink of death, and he was able to have their bodies heal themselves quickly, so that they were brought back from death. So that they weren't going to die. That's the importance here with Dark Transfer. The next power is Deadly Sight. Deadly Sight was a power of the dark side, focusing the user's hatred into deadly energy. Darksiders can inflict pain and injury upon their foes merely by looking at them. Yes, if looks could kill, if that's what you're thinking about, folks. Causing a victim's body to burn and smoke as they died. The user of Deadly Sight could damage entire groups of foes within their field of vision. However, it was tiring to sustain. It was also inefficient in terms of the strain caused on the user's Force reserves. But it was nevertheless effective in the right situation. It should be noted that Deadly Sight injured everyone that the user looked at, including allies and civilians. It is unknown whether or not it could be refined, especially because of its dark nature. The only known practitioner of Deadly Sight was the Dark Jedi Saris, who may have used it in her duel with Kyle Katarn in 5 years after Battle of Yavin. Yes, that's in one of the Dark Forces games. When you're playing Kyle Katarn, when you face her, yeah, she actually does use the power on you, and it's annoying as crap. Just so you know. The next ability is Doppelganger. Doppelganger, or Simul Futurus, was a Force power that allowed a user to create a perfect illusion of his or herself through the Force. The ability could also be used to duplicate objects that were visually indistinguishable from the real item. The Force user could perceive all the doppelganger's senses, and to those interacting with it, the doppelganger seemed real. The user could even interact with the world using telekinesis to move objects, furthering the believability of the illusion. The doppelganger could also be detected by all droid audio and video sensors. The doppelganger would fade away if the Force user was injured and ceased using the power. Count Dooku and Luke Skywalker could use this ability. A distinct version of doppelganger was also used by the Falanasi, which allowed the creation of a perfect illusion of himself or an object that was visually indistinguishable from what was real. This illusion was not limited in size and could be both seen and heard, but unlike other versions, lacked the ability to physically move objects via telekinesis. A Force Phantom was similar to a doppelganger, being that it was an astral projection of a being created through the use of the Force, but it was a projection of something other than the user's own image. Force Phantoms were also most likely used only by the dark side, and usually exhibited corporeal properties and inflicted damage on living beings. The next power is Drain Knowledge. And quite simply, Drain Knowledge was a dark side ability used to extract knowledge out of a sentient without his or her consent. This was beyond simple reading of thoughts. The Drain Knowledge ability disrupted the Force to steal deep memories and information in a violent and merciless way. Such a process might damage the subject psychologically. For example of this, one of the later EU novels with Kip Duron, who was one of Luke's apprentices, later became Jedi Knight, became Jedi Knight again. Okay, Kip was able to actually manifest and use this ability, and this is where he stole the knowledge of an Imperial superweapon called the Sun Crusher from the actual scientist's mind. Okay, he literally didn't have to ask her anything about it. He just went up to her and ripped all the information out of her mind. So imagine someone just scooping out a physical part of your body. That's exactly what it feels like. So that's how powerful this ability can be.
But did she retain the information too?
No.
Oh, so
he
take that knowledge?
That knowledge is completely stripped away from that sentient's mind. And anything closely associated was ripped from her mind.
That can be
so
useful.
She literally has a blank space in there. Along with the physiologically, she suffered too, meaning she had some brain and neural problems, injuries that would eventually heal in time. But yes, that's how traumatic it was. That it actually caused physical damage to her brain. Right. And the next ability, which we all know and love, Droid Disable. Ionize was a Force power developed during the old Sith War that allowed Jedi to overload and damage electronic systems, such as droids. Master Arca Jeth discovered the technique during the Great Droid Revolution, which allowed the Jedi to deactivate the droid army of HK-01. During the Jedi Civil War, the ability would remain common amongst Jedi, as both Revan and the Jedi Exile were known to be capable of utilizing this power, along with their companions. Millennia later, it would be used by Luke Skywalker. When employed, a stream of ionic energy generated by the Force would be unleashed upon the targeting mechanism and bore some similarity in the appearance to Force lightning. However, the stream of energy traveling from the user to the target, or targets, if skilled enough, was purple, as contrary to the blue-white appearance of Force lightning, a nod to its stream of ions. Ionize was divided into 3 separate levels of power, and if you're familiar with KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, then you have some understanding of this. Stun Droid, which was the first one, caused only minimum damage to a droid circuits and was focused more on stunning the machine for a short period of time, often no more than 6 seconds. It was somewhat easy to resist, and it was usually only effective against non-combat models, but nearly always caused small devices such as mines to explode. The next one was Disable Droid. It was much more effective in deactivating a droid or other machinery than Stun Droid, and was capable of causing some amounts of damage to the wiring and circuitry of the machine. Moreover, the energy released from this power was also capable of hopping from one droid to another within a certain area of the originally targeted droid. The last one, Destroy Droid, was the most effective of all 3 levels and was aimed at the total destruction of the droid or device, and even beings with incorporeal skills, more than simply disabling it. The energy emitted from the user could effectively destroy many droids at once, especially if they were standing within a close proximity to the single droid target. While this power did not always ensure that the target would be immediately destroyed, resistance often still caused major disruptions to the inner circuitry of the machine. Next up is Electric Judgment. Electric Judgment, also known as Emerald Lightning, was a force technique used by Jedi such as Plo Koon and Jacen Solo. It showed up as yellow or green energy instead of blue or white, but otherwise it was very similar in both appearance and usage to the force power known as Force Lightning. This power was uncommon and controversial among the Jedi because of its intrinsic association with anger and aggression. So think of it, this is the light side version of Force Lightning that the Sith receive. So the Jedi do have a similar ability, but because it's tied to an aggressive side of nature, they rarely teach it or they rarely use it at all. Next power, Force Bellow. And quite simply, Force Bellow was a power in which the user would amplify their voice using the Force. It's used to amplify the user's voice to be heard over great distances and or areas. And it's not to be confused with the power of Force Scream, or similar to it, that we see in SWTOR. This is simply just like, you don't need a megaphone or microphone. You can actually just use the Force to amplify your voice to be heard over an entire auditorium, and so on. Next power is called Force Blinding. Force Blinding was a telekinetic light side force power. Upon use of this technique, a blinding flash of energy emanated from a user's hand, manifesting as a flash of light that overloaded a target's vision, causing temporary blindness. A powerful tool of the light side, a Jedi could obfuscate an opponent's sight, making it difficult for the adversary to spot and attack the Jedi or anyone else. That'd be handy in SWTOR, wouldn't it? However, a trained Force sensitive who had prepared himself could defend against this technique by using Force Sight. Still, if the Jedi could blind an unprepared enemy before they reached out with Force Sight, the blind could still be effective. Although it was classically a light side power, both the Dark Jedi Yun and the Force apparition of Dark Mara were able to use it. Next up, we have Force Cloak. Force Cloak, also known as Force Camouflage and or Force Concealment, was a rarely seen Force talent involving the manipulation of light and sound waves to render a practitioner virtually invisible to the naked eye. This technique was found mainly among members of the Jedi Order before the rise of the Galactic Empire and the destruction of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Despite the loss of knowledge among the Jedi, the technique of cloaking oneself in the Force was perfected by the Disciples of Twilight, a mysterious sect based on the Outer Rim moon Dispeth. The technique of cloaking oneself in the Force was once practiced by Force-sensitive individuals since the early days of the Galactic Republic. A rare ability, a Force user would call upon their mastery of the Force to photokinetically bend light and sound waves around themselves, rendering them invisible to visual and audio detection. This skill tends to come to people as more of a natural talent, for it is extremely difficult to learn otherwise. Thus the reason the ability was rarely seen. As the technique physically bent light like a cloaking device, this power could be used to evade being detected not only by living beings, but also beings normally immune to Force-based illusions, such as droids or alien species like the Yuzhang Bong. While highly effective when practiced properly, maintaining such a cloak was extremely taxing, and the concentration needed to make a convincing shroud could diminish the worth of employing the technique. Like all Force-based abilities, no single method existed to cloak oneself. An alternate version, which did not involve a command over light and sound, was an advanced form of mind trick or Force persuasion. In this way, a user affected the minds of those around them, removing all traces of their presence from the mind of observers and allowing them to move completely unnoticed while in plain sight. Unlike other methods of cloaking, droids and other non-living individuals could not be fooled by a mind trick. And there are a ton of examples and other explanations out there, folks. Please go to the Star Wars Wiki for that. It's too much. The next power is Force Confusion. Mind tricks, or mind control, refer to a spectrum of Force powers which influence the thoughts of sentient creatures, most commonly used to coerce into agreement by suggestion through voice manipulation, or to cause one to reveal information. This allowed its practitioners to resolve matters in a non-violent way. It could also be used to appeal to a sensory impression for distraction or cause friendly fire among enemies. One sinister variation of the power was called Force Corruption, an ability that would force targets to the user's side while slowly draining their life. Now, a mind trick was the use of the Force to alter a target's perceptions, or to plant a suggestion in their mind. It usually worked on the weak-minded. There were some species that were particularly resistant to mind tricks, such as Hutts, Toydarians, Olimani, and Dashad. The concept of Force persuasion was the use of the Force to exert influence. Some species with highly organized mental facilities were known to be inherently resistant to its effects, requiring more skill. Among them, like I mentioned before, the Hutts, the Tardarian, the Inchoi, the Clodalians, and the Shot amongst others. Like, for example, Revan could persuade Mota the Hutt. Remember, we all saw Luke Skywalker fail in his attempt to persuade Jabba the Hutt. Also, during the Jedi Civil War, certain ranks of soldiers were trained to resist this technique. On the other hand, some species, such as the Nikto, were particularly susceptible to it. Known variants included Affect Mind and Dominate Mind, with Dominate Mind being a more advanced version of the former. Okay, those two powers you see in the KOTOR games, as one of the abilities you have access to. When using a Jedi mind trick, the Jedi often waved his or her hand to aid in the persuasion. The Jedi adopted a particular tone of voice along with a casual facial expression. The sentient being that was the object of the mind trick tended to adopt a casual tone of voice, but a peculiar facial expression. Should the trick succeed, he or she then agreed to whatever was being said to them without being able to think for themselves. Moments later, they would feel puzzled about their new opinion, but usually didn't feel like changing it back. Usage of the mind trick was a moral issue for the Jedi, as it did violate the individual's free will and conscience. Thus, the Jedi were strictly prohibited from using it for personal gain, such as in betting or bargaining, reserving its use for when it would serve the greater good. Greater good could also be sometimes a reason to overlook this restriction. The Sith and other Dark Jedi, however, had no qualms about the usage of this ability. Force Fear was a dark side power and possibly a dark side variant of the Jedi mind trick, used around 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin by Sith and Jedi with dark side tendencies. The wielder would strike directly at the deepest parts of the target's mind, causing an uncontrollable shaking fear that would wreak havoc with the target's capabilities. Through pure force of will alone, a user could cause them to lose their courage completely, and if left undefended, the effects could be severe, rapidly demoralize the enemy with a feeling of hopelessness and regret. Depending on the victim, it would cause them to either cower defenselessly or flee from their opponent outright. Okay, Force Fear was classified as a dark side power due to the fact that its fear is an emotion of the dark side. However, as with many powers, it was the intent behind its use that counted, and Jedi would sometimes use it to defuse a potentially dangerous situation. Now, Force Fear had two advanced variants: Force Horror, sound familiar, and Force Insanity. Force Horror enabled the Force user to cause multiple enemies to enter into a catatonic state of panic that was more severe and more difficult to defend than the basic Force Fear. In similarity, Force Insanity also enabled the Force user to affect multiple enemies at once, although to an even greater range than its predecessor. As the most advanced form of Force Fear, its effect was much more devastating, with the victims possibly descending into an utter state of frenzied madness and deranged mania as the situation seemed to suddenly become hopeless. Force Projection was a mysterious Jedi ability and was possibly a variation of Force Illusion. It was a technique with which a Force user could create an inanimate apparition similar to themselves to distract, confuse, or lure enemies. Perhaps not strictly a mind trick, the projected image was fully capable of intercepting incoming fire and was visible to all around it, not just a selected target. If you want to see an example of this, folks, I believe it's one of the older Star Wars games. It's in, I think, Mysteries of the Sith, when you play Mara Jade. Okay, Mara Jade learns this power and uses it in her fights, her saber fights, where she actually creates an entire copy of herself and uses it on the battlefield. Mind Control, also known as Dominate Mind or Control Mind, was the dark side equivalent of the Jedi mind trick, though Mind Control was much more invasive. It took complete control of the mind or minds of the victim or victims affected by the power. Higher levels of mastery allow more people to be controlled, although its effect on members of certain species with an innate immunity to mind tricks, such again as the Hutt Tardarians, for example, is unconfirmed. Force Illusion was a very powerful force ability, and it was a subset of various mind trick powers. The user projected an image into the minds of beings within range, of anything from pillar of fire to a horde of snarling monsters to a fleet of warships, depending on the range. The user could see the illusion as well, though it would be only partially there, semi-transparent like a hologram. The key differences between a force illusion and a hologram is that, unlike a hologram, the illusion could be controlled mentally and was limited only by the imagination of the user. Even more importantly, a force illusion did not merely affect the sight of a creature. Since it was projected directly into the brain of the creature, it appeared in all of the creature's senses, from hearing to smell to senses such as echolocation. Even viewing it through an electronic system such as a cybernetic eye or camera was of no use if the creature was within range of the illusion during its duration. The creature would see it with the system as if the illusion were actually there, though any playback after the illusion had ended would reveal nothing at all. It had absolutely no effect on any mind that wasn't organic, such as droids and other AI, and had a greatly reduced or almost non-existent effect on Force users or Force-resistant species again, such as species like the Hutts. It was also difficult to learn. While Force illusions can make something out of nothing, they can't make nothing out of something. In other words, they couldn't render someone or something invisible. Alright, for that aspect, another power we'll talk about later, called Force immersion, would be used, though they could conceal anything within the illusion. In addition, the illusion offered no physical substance, though it could be felt. In most cases, any appendage that touched it would pass straight through, usually betraying its status. Of course, that detail has allowed for several dark side applications, such as using an illusion to conceal a dangerous pitfall, or to torture their opponents with phantom pain. Finally, the sustained use of a Force illusion could be taxing, especially at the extreme ranges of skill, such as thousands of kilometers away, or it has to be large enough, to affect objects like a capital ship. And this concludes Part 6 of Force Powers. Next week, we're going to pick it up Part 7 with Force Defend. And as always, I wish to say thank you to Wikipedia, StarWars.com, TheForce.net, and other great Star Wars sites that are out there. Folks, if you enjoy the Star Wars lore as much as I do, please visit these sites, look up your favorite topics, and enjoy.
I really like this one. I think this is the longest series you've ever done on one lore topic.
Actually, yeah, I think it is. Because, the Force is obviously an integral part of the Star Wars IP, and there's just so much out there. Wow, I think this is going to be like another 4 or 5 parts of this, because there's so many Force powers that they've described and outlined on the Wikipedia and the Star Wars Wiki. And in some cases, I'm actually trimming them because some of them are so similar to each other. It's like I'll leave like the variants out and just stick with the main one, or something that I think people will be familiar with.
That's what's kind of funny about it is like these are pretty meaty sections too, and from the way you're making it sound, it's going to be over 10 parts to Force powers. Yeah, it's looking that way because there's so many out there, and some of them go into quite a lot of detail, because what they do is they actually will give you an actual breakdown, historical breakdown of how this power was discovered, or how it was used in the past, or how it was taught by the Jedi or the Sith or Dark Jedi. So, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Well, this is definitely an interesting topic. I like hearing about the different things that each side can do with the Force. Mm-hmm. And now it's time that we migrate into the community holo feed, where first up is the trivia question of the week. And that's right. Each week we're going to post a trivia question into our YouTube video version of the show. Simply go to StarWarsBeyond.com and we'll link you right to the episode. On the episode page, there will be a button you press to see the trivia question of the week. Alternatively, it'll always be after we say our goodbyes. Then, just shoot us an email with your answer to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. And in the email, please include your character name, the faction you play on, and the server, along with the faction you play on. If there is more than one correct answer, we will do a random drawing to win a cartel pack. Bear in mind, everyone that answers correctly, even if you didn't win, but as long as you answer correctly, you will be entered into a drawing for a much larger prize, which we'll draw on the show every couple of months. Yeah, you can be entered into the grand prize drawing every time that you answer correctly. And remember, we held a grand prize drawing not too long ago, all right? And, the fan, they got what they literally picked out what they wanted. Sent it off to them. Yep. Who was also a correct entry this week, but not the winner. So guess what? If he wins the grand prize drawing next time, he gets to pick another prize again. That's right. And we may have more options by the time the next drawing rolls around, too. Mm-hmm. Got a couple things I'm working on. So bear that in mind, folks. Spread the word.
We love seeing people respond, taking part in these events, this contest. And yes, I do sometimes get a great statistic feeling when I stump people for a while, so it's fun.
What was great was back in the day when we used to do it on Facebook, and they would be having group discussions about what the answer could
was.
be. Like, well, it couldn't be this because it was great. They used to have some pretty in-depth conversations trying to figure out what the answers to your questions were. But this week, to Chuck of the Harbinger server correctly guessed that it was Galandro.
That's right, folks. If you weren't too sure, okay, the answer to the last trivia question, yes, is Galandro. Okay, for those of you who are not familiar, he is most notably figured in the Han Solo's trilogy of books that was published by Del Rey in late 70s, early 80s. And just some quick trivia, Galandro, let's put it this way. When you meet Han Solo for the first time in Star Wars A New Hope, Han is the fastest draw in the galaxy. Alright? He was now. He was then. Before then, it was this guy. It was Galandro. Alright, Han was number 2 in the galaxy. And the funny thing was, remember, Han didn't beat him by the straight quick draw. It was through the help of another associate of Han's that helped trick and kill Galandro through other means.
Yeah, because if Han Solo wasn't the quickest draw in the galaxy, he may have actually died, and Greedo shot first.
That's right. He actually might have bought in the cantina on Tatooine if Han didn't shoot first.
Well, no, remember Greedo shot first in the new one.
I'm sorry, I have to dig it up now. The old VHS tape I have says otherwise. Take that.
That one didn't go as Lucas planned, remember?
It's okay. A lot of us fans have it proof somewhere.
Remember, Han shot second the entire time. It just didn't look that way. And he may have died, if he didn't have time to let Greedo take a shot at him and then pull out and shoot. In the next cut, like if Lucas was still on the project in the next edition, you would have actually seen Han get shot in the shoulder, an actual flesh wound, before he pulls out his gun and pulls the trigger.
Yeah, it'd be nice. And as Pele pointed out, the books were written by Brian Daley, published by Del Rey. Yeah, they were great stories, and introduced you to Han's character. Okay, because back then when Star Wars first came out, when you first had the print edition of the movie come out, all right, you pretty much just meet Han like a third of the way in. Right, and I was at a Cantina Mos Eisley, but at least with the Han Solo stories that were put out, you actually see why Han is the way he is. Okay, you're not introduced so much as to how Han and Chewie met. Yeah, you get inferences from other characters that Han knows in the books of how they met and what happened. All right, but I really think now if Disney wants to go forward with making new movies, I mean, heck, they just announced the dates for the next 2 movies anyway. All right, for episode 8 and 9.
And were you surprised to find out that episode 8 is not going to be by J.J. Abrams?
Shocking.
It's back for episode 9, but episode 8 has a different director.
Yeah, I wonder why. He must have another project in the works, maybe another Star Trek film.
He's probably working on that Star Wars Star Trek crossover.
Right, or a pure Trek film.
From the depths of Tatooine.
But yeah, it's... that's one of the more colorful characters that Han's had in his past, and I really think going forward, that if Disney wanted to ever expand the Star Wars franchise even more, I'm all for them going into, just more prequel stuff. Like, you know what? Han's story is definitely worth telling. Okay, how he became a smuggler in the first place. Okay, because not that many people realize or know that Han used to be an Imperial officer. All right, he went to the academy on Karita. He was commissioned. He was an officer serving the Imperial Navy.
Han Solo's prequel, where Han Solo is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Or Chris Pratt.
With prosthetics like he had in Looper to be Bruce Willis' young version.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, I just think they go off of whoever the bigger name actor is and the other person.
Just CGI their face in.
Well, no, like, when it came down to Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, we're like, well, people know Bruce Willis more, so you're the one that has to wear prosthetics to look like him.
Yeah.
If Joseph Gordon-Levitt would have been more popular, they would have put prosthetics on Bruce Willis to make him look like an old Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
True. And Clay just pointed out in the chat, he would like to see Han appear in the series that's out now, anime series that's out now in Disney XD, Star Wars Rebels. Because, alright folks, spoiler alert, you haven't watched it yet. Because we already see Lando Calrissian, that smooth talker. He's appeared in there already.
Oh, come on, you're ruining it.
We also introduce, Grand Moff Wilf Tarkin. We see him as well in the series.
Grand Moff, my mind immediately followed it with Rikus Kilrin.
No, he's actually Moff Rikus. He's not Grand, but
what? I thought he's Grand Moff.
Is he? Wait a minute.
When he introduces himself in the Black Talon, I thought he said he's Grand Moff Rikus Kilrin.
He's going to run that again. Yeah, it's been so long since I ran that.
I'm gonna look this up now. Rikus Kilrin.
But yeah, you already have the introduction of those characters ready. And who else did we meet? Oh, we met Bail Organa in Star Wars Rebels. All right, Leia's father. And yes, you see Bail in the quintessential ship that they use, the one you see in New Hope, in the opening credits, that getting blasted all to heck by Imperial Star Destroyer.
My name is Rikus Kilrin. I'm commander of the 5th Fleet, second to the Minister of War, and my personal favorite, the so-called Butcher of Coruscant. Grand Moff Rikus Kilrin introduces himself to the prospective allies on board the Black Talon. Ooh, and I can listen to that. Maybe if I want to listen to that, I'll run Flashpoint.
Yeah. No, I will run the rest of it. And I did pad it with spoiler alert. All right, it's over now. Then we're talking about Star Wars Rebels.
But you just spoiled it for me.
Like you're ever going to watch it.
I would if it went to Netflix.
I'm still waiting for you to watch Clone Wars.
I'm watching that now.
How many years later?
Not during the show. Hey, in fairness, it just came to Netflix like a year ago. And there's better things to watch.
Ooh.
So, in our SWOTOR community, you can check out our fellow SWOTOR podcasts. Most of them are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and on SWOTORnetwork.com. ToroCast at ToroCast.com. Corellian Run Radio at CorellianRun.com. UtiniCast at UtiniCast.com. SWOTOR Escape Podcast at NewOverlords.com. The Usual Podcast at TheUsualPodcast.com. Old Republic Radio on iTunes, Healing SWOTOR on iTunes, Enmity Podcast on iTunes, and The Bad Feeling Podcast at badfeelingpodcast.com. And be warned, they are an explicit podcast. You can also follow Madmar, aka Lord Fluffy Duck, at SWOTOR Family for the latest happenings in the SWOTOR community. And if you'd like to have your podcast listed on this segment, send us an email at StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. You can find out more about our show at StarWarsBeyond.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can tweet us at StarWarsBeyond. You can tweet me at SithLordKorv. You can tweet Lou at GamerGuy11B. And you can tweet Paige at AceOfFiery. And now it is time for our final thoughts.
My final thought. Well, I really wish BioWare would bring more XP events to the forefront. Again, I'm all for it if they give us a set amount per year and give us the dates ahead of time so we all know we can plan for it. But be open to just dropping one here and there randomly, during whatever time frame, just to say, hey, you know what, just as appreciation, just because we want to say, we really appreciate you guys playing the game. Here, another XP event or triple XP or whatever, whether it's attached to just normal questing, whether we attach it to GSF or PvP. Let's do more of those types of events, okay? Not just XP, but different types of special events in the game, to keep players interested, to give them more variety to do things within the game itself.
And I'd just like to thank you for ruining that flaming turd ball called Star Wars Rebels and making sure that I never have to watch a single episode of that since you've spoiled the entire premise for the whole series. And as your punishment, Drake will now sit on your lap for the rest of the trip.
Ugh.
Beyond the Stars is an independently recorded fan podcast made in association with NSG Productions. And now it's time to say goodnight.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. See you all again next time.
And good night, everybody. We'll see you all next week.
You've served your purpose.
Beyond the Stars trivia question for the week of April 1st, 2015. April Fool's Day. No question. Gotcha. First clue. Gifted in the Force, my master was of the same species as me, according to the long-held traditions of my people placed upon the Jedi Order. Second clue. My swordsmanship was complemented with my agility and flexibility, avoiding, dodging, evading any attack without my lightsaber. Third clue. The ease of connection I would establish with others allowed me to complement any of my companions in battle. Fourth clue. The soldiers I led into battle were infiltration and guerrilla warfare specialists. My troops and I would learn and appreciate the native populations of whatever planet we campaigned on. Fifth clue. My name would be used in a smear campaign to bolster the fledgling galactic empire. Who am I? Please send your responses to starsbeyond@gmail.com. And in your email, please don't forget to include your character name, the faction you're in, and what server you play on. And as always, good luck, folks. Looking forward to seeing all your answers.